Good morning, y'all. Jason over here at Cog Hill Farm on this. It's quite beautiful. Pretty cold morning this morning. We're actually waiting on our truckload of mulch to come. We buy a truckload of mulch. This will be our second time, I think, buying it. The last one lasted us a good little bit. And it's a lot cheaper buying it by the bulk too. So yeah, we're waiting on a truckload of mulch. We're gonna remulch the fruit orchard, and that's what we're gonna use it for, and some other things around here. But we're waiting on that this morning. And well, y'all, the mulch man is here. There it is, right there. I gotta keep Holly inside. Let's get him in the gate. We're hoping it's the same driver that it was the last time. I could be this is our third time. The last two times we got it, he's really good, and he does not mind dumping it where we want to dump it. So I'm hoping that's the same guy, because it can be a little tricky, you know, maneuvering through here. Come on, Holly. Let's go in the greenhouse and warm up for a second. Come on. Come on, it'll be a lot warmer here. Yeah, it is a lot warmer in here, isn't it, girl? So it is the same driver as last time. He of course, he's done made, I'm telling you how many hundreds of stops since he's been here last. It's been a couple of years since he's been here. So anyways, Brooke's gonna go get the side-by-side and show him exactly where we want it dumped, which is over there by the fruit orchard. Oh, he got it. He's home free now. What's cool about this is it's a conveyor belt. It's not a dump bed, it's a conveyor belt that just pushes the mulch out. So no lift or anything like that. It's pretty ingenious. That's a big old pile of mulch. Big old pile. This'll last us a good little minute for sure. This is a video that I don't ever want to make, and we don't make very many of these over the years. We've been on social media and YouTube. I think we're getting close to 9-10 years now, and we always, you know, I feel like the good Lord put me here to bring light into the world and to make people smile and to make people or let people get a relief, you know, for whatever's, you know, going on in the world, and just to bring happiness to the world and to you guys. And this video is one I did not want to make at all. We lost Scott the Peacock. He passed away yesterday, and it was a shock. We did not expect it whatsoever. He seemed okay the day before, and the day before that, me and Caden were actually cleaning up this area over here. I had some big stuff that I couldn't move by myself, and we're just tidying up over here, some things left over from when we moved from the old farm, and Caden was helping me, and Scott was right there with us, y'all, right there with us. And every now and then he was letting out a little, you know, his little, not his big long call, but just a little call, and I was talking to him, and I don't know. And any of y'all that have ever owned poultry or birds, and they're so good at masking things, and you know, you go out there and everything's fine, and the next day or 10 hours later you go out there and it's not. And I don't know. I don't know. Scott was one of the original clan here on the farm. Of course, we had Miss Penny, the late Miss Penny, who was Mary Carl's best friend for years. And Penny did pass away several years ago. And he had Penny and Peaches and Thomas and Scott and Tipper and Bootsy. That's the original, pretty much the original clan. I know we have some chickens here and there besides Penny, but for the most part, the original gang of Cog Hill Farm. This is tough. It's been rough on all of us. It's been especially rough on Brooke and Mary Carl. I don't know. I'm gonna miss him. Y'all can hear another peacock back there, and that is, as we called him, or Mary Carl started calling him, not Scott. That's Scott's son. So we do have Scott's son here on the farm. What's going on, Big Scott? Hey, buddy. How you doing? And look right here. There's not Scott on top of Mary Carl's pigeon loft, beside a few pigeons. Yeah, that looks odd. You don't blend in there at all, buddy. Not at all. He's definitely not Scott. Scott was absolutely, in my opinion, one of a kind. As far as Peacock goes, to me, he was one of the tamest and friendliest peacocks we ever had. He never left the farm, at either farm, and never really got out of his little comfort zone. You know, Scott liked to stay over here, and you know, he just kind of stayed in this area. Every now and then he'd get out and walk around, or you know, he visited Gus and Loretta a good bit. But other than that, you know, Scott did his thing. I'm gonna miss him. Gonna miss him a lot. I said I wasn't gonna tear up in this video, and it's gonna be tough. Editing it's gonna be worse. I know that, but yeah. His new feathers were coming in. He looked fine. He looked absolutely fine. And then you feel guilty, you know, because you know, I feel like maybe it was my fault. You know, we checked on them every day. Those waters got cleaned out, the feed got fed. I mean, every day, you know, I talked to Scott every day. I know we didn't show him as much as we used to because he stayed over here in this area. And this is kind of Mary Carl's area over here. And Mary Carl's over here a good bit, and you guys know that she wants to, you know, remain private now. And it's tough because, you know, they're like children to us, you know. A peacock, who would have thought, right? Funny story about Scott is that we had peacocks originally, a long time ago, maybe 15 years ago. I'm not quite for sure how old Scott is. Scott's anywhere from 8 to 10 years old. Me and Brooke were trying to think back on exactly how old Scott was, but the funny thing about peacocks and how special Scott was, we had peacocks before we had Scott and Miss Lewis, and then of course Ozella. Our first batch of peacocks were absolutely the devil, y'all. They destroyed my gardens. And this is, we didn't have any social media then. They destroyed our gardens. They terrorized the chickens. And I told Brooke and Mary Carl then, I was like, look, we got to get rid of these peacocks. They cannot stay, or these peafowl. They cannot stay here. We can't do this. And we did. We rehomed them. And a few years later, the opportunity came up to get some peacock chicks. And Mary Carl and Brooke, you know, were like, please, let's try it again. And so we got the chicks and brought them home and raised them. And of course we kept Scott and Ozella. I think it was 3 or 4, I can't remember now. Scott and Ozella were perfect. Scott never, ever got in my garden. Never. Even before I put the flags up, Scott never got in. Scott honestly never did anything wrong. He just didn't. He didn't pick on any of the chickens. When he was younger, he'd flare his tail up, and Tucker and Pink loved to play with his tail. He would let him play with his tail. The only issue we ever had with Scott was when Thomas got a little bit older. Thomas decided that he wanted to fight Scott. And that was like a sumo wrestler fighting a a MMA fighter. I mean, it was oil and water. Scott was just so athletic and so agile, and Thomas was just so big and cumbersome. And I don't know why Thomas tried to pick a fight on Scott, and we ended up having to separate them at the old farm because y'all know Scott beat up Thomas pretty good, one pretty good little time there. And couldn't blame Scott. Thomas started it and wouldn't leave Scott alone. So we separated them for a good little bit. And all that came about when we had to sell the farm and move. And of course, the peacocks were one of my biggest concerns because they're so territorial and they will leave. And we have gifted friends some peacocks at a young age, and they have left their farm. And so that's why we got that pen right down yonder that, of course, me and Kate are actually we're gonna remove that pretty soon. I needed help doing that because it's so big. And Scott and Ozella stayed in there and Miss Lewis. We had Miss Lewis then too. They stayed in there I was so worried. They always say 4 weeks, and I didn't trust 4 weeks. And we did 8 weeks. And so worried when we let them out. Scott was gonna leave. But he didn't, he stayed. He stayed. For those that don't know, Scott got his name from one of my dearest friends. That is a James Beard Award-winning chef here from Alabama. His name is Scott Peacock. And Scott's been friends for me for years, and I love him to death. And I just thought it was the perfect name for our male peacock, to name him Scott the Peacock. And of course, the real Scott Peacock, he thought it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. He loved it. I'm gonna miss him. His call, y'all could hear it in almost every video when it was, I say breeding season or mating season for peacocks, but it was about 6 to 7 months out of the year. Y'all would hear Scott in the videos off in the distance or even up close. I won't ever forget when they hear a loud noise, and the turkey, Thomas is the same way. When they hear any kind of like a loud noise, they would do their call, and Scott was way worse than Thomas was. And when we were building the house, y'all, it was almost nonstop. Because, you know, you had the nail gun and the hammering, and it was just a lot of noises. And all the construction workers, Brant and the builders, and Roberto and Heidel, they ended up getting tickled over it. You know, I could hear them mocking Scott throughout the day. And yeah, I'm gonna miss my old buddy. I'm definitely gonna miss him. Funny thing is that him and Thomas, after he moved here and stuff, they seemed like they calmed down. I don't know if they just got older or what. They seemed to calm down. They really did. They didn't have any issues with them whatsoever. Matter of fact, when me and Kaden were over here cleaning up, you know, him and Thomas they side by side. Side by side. When we first got Scott, and I was just trying to get the YouTube channel going, he would interrupt me all the time at the old farm. And it was funny because that ended up being a kind of a signature of the old farm, of me trying to do something or talk, and Scott constantly interrupting me. I know this is a sad video, and I really didn't want to make it at all, but you guys needed to know. We're transparent here, and so many of y'all love Scott, and y'all needed to know. Y'all needed to know what happened, and that he did pass away. I did get Kaden to help me bury Scott. We gave him a proper burial. We do that with all our animals here, and Gonna miss the old boy. I'm definitely gonna miss my buddy Scott. But I hated to make this video, but we try to be as transparent as we possibly can here. And I know so many of y'all love Scott. And here's a little tribute to him throughout the years. Hope you guys enjoy this. And I'm not leaving on a sad note. It's been rough here for a few days for us. And I thought, you know what? I'm gonna cheer the family up, get our minds off things, and we're gonna go get us a family Christmas tree. And we're gonna go to the little family-owned Christmas tree farm that we love to go to every year. Right over there, take our minds off things, have some good times. You Scott. Go, big boy. Do it.
So what perfect timing for me to show you guys Scott showing his tail in all its beauty from the backside with his son over there beside him. I think he's trying to teach him a thing or two. Your boy's got a ways to go, Scott, to be as beautiful as you are. But he's gonna get there. One day at a time.
Boy, you can tell that rain and humidity is starting to take its toll around here. Scott, your feathers, man. Woo, they've seen better days.
He's gonna be a beautiful bird. He's always been beautiful, but this year, I think he's gonna max out.
Yeah, this year he's gonna be, woo, he's gonna be something else. Come on, Scott. There you go.
He's showing you a 360?
Yeah. As y'all know, there's Scott's one true love, popcorn and chicken. Oh, my gracious alive.